Hello and welcome back to the Sanderlanche podcast. I am Joe, and with me as always is...
Jack.
Jamie.
And Data.
Yes, and we are talking about Mistborn, The Well of Ascension, chapters 26, 27, and 28, wherein, Vin puts on a dress, they go to Elend's dad's place, there's some fighting, some arguing, a threat of killing, and then they go back, and then Elend loses his kingship. It's all very sad. He wrote his own law to depose himself, which seemed kind of silly. And now we're trying to get the kingdom back. So that's where we are. Hold on to something, everyone. The Sanderlanche is about to begin.
Elders, tellers, keepers of the bottom, treasures of the dirt. Russian string, we scribble and sing and dig for the annals of the earth. And we try to keep a little beauty in the world. All that died, we keep it in our hands.
Yeah, so these, it's been a while since we actually got together and read some chapters. I hope everyone managed to remember for 2 weeks what we were doing here. So what did you guys think of these 3 chapters overall?
Too much politicking for me, I was hoping for some action. We really just got a lot of posturing. I would say that 2 chapters of Straff time is 1.5 chapters too long. So, but no, I mean they were good. I'm hoping that we get into some action soon, though. I know we keep saying that, and I know Brandon Sanderson's got his own way of doing things, but I'm just like, geez, come on. When's it gonna start?
The politics is the action. It's a political thriller. That's why the big dramatic end of the section is like, oh no, he's been deposed.
Dun dun dun.
Dun, dun. Exactly.
No, I tend to agree. I was reading this just like, okay, cool. Now we get to the fighting, and then it didn't happen. So I was like, oh, for what they were good chapters. But I'm just like, all right. Really need some action to happen. I'm starting to get a bit, come on, let's go. Let's get this Sanderlanche rolling. Honestly, the more I read of Zane, the more I don't like the guy. Like that bit with him and Vin talking, I'm just like, oh my God, you need to just piss off.
He does harp on about the same things over and over.
Yeah, I'm just like, all right, yeah, change your tune, dude. Weirdly enough, I came out of these chapters like, all right, I actually have a little bit of respect for Elend. Yeah, he made a mistake writing that law in, but he has the integrity to stick by it. And it's like, I'm prepared to take my kingdom back, but I'm going to do it the right way. And it's like, this may be misguided, but you're sticking to your ideals in a very shitty situation. It's like, I can't really fault you for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with the other guys as well. I think we're really ready to see something unravel, and look, I don't know if it's just that we're looking at things really closely and going, come on, it's got to happen now. I think I was hoping for something a little bit more exciting for the end of part 2, but on it forgetting that it's part of the end of part 2, I quite liked the interaction between Elend and Straff. Not surprised at all that Straff is a jerk for all time. I liked that Straff was uncomfortable. I quite enjoyed that we got a viewpoint from him at the end of that encounter. Why did I let him go? It's sort of showing that, he is a bit insecure, and it's like, just kill them. Like you've got to get it done. This isn't going to work out well for us. So I think I enjoyed that he's not as stable as what he appears to be, not stable, mentally stable, but in a position in the, battle. So I really, yeah, I mean, he's obviously not the most stable person around, but he does bring off that. We've come from Straff drinking the poison because he's invincible and everyone needs to see that, to seeing inside his head going shit. So I thought that was really good, and even for Zane to sort of turn around and go, oh wait, what? I don't want to kill her. Like we can't do that. I also really liked the interaction between Elend and Straff when Vin wasn't in the room, even though we know Vin's listening and doing her allomancy to sort of prove their point. But Elend stood up to his dad, and I was like, yes, you tell him what you think. This is good. Tidwell would be so proud of you right now. So I thought that was really good too. And yeah, I mean, the final chapter that we read with Ellen, why did you do that? You know, writing in the law. But it's exactly what I would expect for him. He's, considering when we first met him, we didn't really rate him. And even at the last book and the start of this book, we were like, oh, of course, he's King Elend. You know, I think he does, fundamentally, he's a good guy. And he is trying his best to, you know, return Luthadel to prospering government and make it a better place genuinely. And he's like, look, I don't necessarily have to be the one at the helm for that. I want to be, but if the people have spoken as well. You know, we're going to do this the right way. I'm no better than anybody else who's come before me. If I just go, nah, I tell you you're wrong, and I'm going to do it this way anyway. He's really trying to think of the people and, you know, have the democracy and stuff. So I thought there were some really good Elend chapters, but I do, yeah, I'm ready to see some action. I don't think we're at the Sanderlanche. We won't be at the Sanderlanche for quite some time, but we need something to happen now. There's so much up in the air that it's like, okay, one of these plates has to fall at some point. It's time. We've got to see something happen. But yeah, otherwise, as usual, an enjoyable read. I'm still really loving the book. So yeah.
Okay. Interesting. So there's, well, I mean, I guess it something is dropped already, because we know that he just lost his after a successful mission to Straff Venture's camp, he lost being king. But,
yeah, but there's still, like, it's not an all hope is lost in that yet. Like, he's lost it, but doesn't he have like a grace period or something that he can convince? Like, there's something written in there that he can do something to try and get it back. It's not like a done deal, but I think of all the things that could happen, it's probably the least thrilling of all the things that could have gone wrong.
You're like, I didn't think he should be king in the first place, so he's not king anymore. It doesn't really. Okay.
Yeah, but he started something.
Well, yeah, and it's just like just when he starts getting kind of good at the job, they're like, oh, by the way, you don't have it anymore. Isn't that just? I did
actually really like the bit about, you know, Straff's got his spies in there. I guess that was a good little tidbit for us as well. It's like, oh, yep, don't forget the spy. Don't forget the spy. Possibly more than one spy. You know, we're so focused on the Khandra, but, you know, just having regular people in there too in the assembly, and, you know, so I guess that is sort of an exciting thing that happened, but it'll be good to see where that goes.
Yeah, he has sources, he claims. So okay, well, I guess let's get into these chapters then. Our epigraph here just talks about how he always claimed he was no warrior, but he came to fight as well as any. He was forced into war by a misunderstanding, is what it says. And I'm like, I don't know how that works, but okay. Sorry,
he's the guy who falls asleep on the cart while he's just hitchhiking, and then it turns out it's a supply cart for the army, and he wakes up, he's in the middle of a battle, someone hands him a sword, it's like, go kill them. He's like, okay.
Yeah, all right.
Well, whatever it was, I guess it worked out for him. Except that we know, he eventually died. But he lived 1,000 years ago. He'd be dead anyway, probably. Well, I guess, no, the power made the Lord Ruler live really, whatever. It doesn't matter. They're both dead now.
It's the Simpsons thing. It's like, you got a choice of the army or jail or apologizing. Like, well, if I knew there was a war going on, I probably would have apologized.
Oh, that was classic. Good old Simpsons. Was that Skinner? Or not
that
Skinner? Armin Tanzarian?
That's the one.
Yeah. Okay. So we start out the chapter with Orsur being like, this is really not a good idea. You should not be doing this, Vin. And it is, a crazy plan to go alone into the enemy camp. But we've kind of talked about that a lot. Orsur has his own kind of view on it, because he's like, hey, I had to study Straff, and he is like bad even for a human.
Yeah, when he started talking about this, it just made me think, I don't know, I just keep leaning into this, that he's actually the Khandra spy.
Oh, here come volcanoes. Yep.
Yeah, here it comes. But he likes Vin now. He's gotten to know her, and he kind of likes her, so he's kind of saying, like, look, Vin, I mean, you don't know this, but Straff's my master, and he's a bad guy. Like, I don't think you should cross him. He's not a person to be crossed. I know that firsthand. With all the beatings he's given me, basically. So even though he's couching it in, like, I had to learn about him when I was trying to be Renault, I think he's speaking from more personal experience.
Interesting.
I eat bones because I have to. He does it for fun.
Yeah, no, I totally see that, actually. Because he has a very strong opinion on Straff here. And I was gonna jump it's right here at the beginning, but I'm gonna go ahead and read this one section from the annotations because it was kind of interesting here. So he says, in the original version of this chapter, I had Vin think that Elend's idea to go into Straff's camp was terrible. She thought it was too dangerous, even foolhardy, and since Vin is generally very competent and trustworthy, the reader agreed with her. They all thought that Elend was doing something incredibly stupid in this chapter. Now, what I had been trying to do was to have her offer strong objections and then get brought around by the end of it to admitting that Elend was right. Unfortunately, that didn't work for the scene. The plan was crazy enough that the readers were already inclined to think it was crazy, when I instead switched the narrative so that Vin had a grudging yet favorable opinion of the visit to Straff's camp. With her weight of trust built behind the endeavor, suddenly the readers had no problem with what Elend is doing. Readers trust Vin more than Elend, which makes sense.
Yeah, no surprises there.
So, just an interesting look at what the chapter was originally, where instead of her trying to convince Orsur here that, no, this will work, Elend's right, she was just like, oh, this is a terrible idea. So, yeah, she spends the beginning of the chapter thinking about and convincing, like, she goes over the problems with the plan, like, there's this and this thing go wrong, but it's our best plan. And she puts on her dress, which we find out is kind of customized for fighting, which is kind of nice. This guy, Orsur theorizes that he has worked for Mistborn before because he's put in some places to hide daggers and for metal vials and all this stuff.
I thought that was really cool.
It's a nice little note. I guess it makes sense, right, that some dressmakers in the Final Empire would be used to Mistborn women, but
yeah. I mean, Tinwyl was sort of giving him pointers when he was measuring her for the dress. It's like, oh, by the way, you got to add pockets and make the skirt shorter and so it's easy to move and that sort of thing. So
that's true.
And then when he found out who she was, I'm sure he was like, oh, well, I need to do what I would normally do for other Mistborn.
Yeah. What did you think of the conversation about the gender of Orsur?
You're a boy, Chandra, aren't you? But I was like, that's actually a good point. We don't know. We've, in our heads, it's like, yeah, it makes sense. Also, as a guy, maybe because he was Reno, or it was Reno, who was male, but there's no reason that he couldn't take on a female form. Right. They are. But I think, did it turn out that he is in fact a boy?
I don't think Orsur ever confirms one way or another what he said. He asks, how do you know that? Gender is not easy to tell in my people since our forms are fluid. And Vin just says, I can tell. And he's like, shrugs it off.
Yeah, she's like, you're obviously a guy. Like, I mean, whatever.
I was expecting the conversation to go, you're a boy, Cantra. How do you know that? How do I know that? I've got no idea.
So apparently there are genders among the Kandra, so it's not like they're like gender neutral or anything. Because he says, or Orsur says that it's not easy to tell, but that implies that you can tell.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Do we agree with Vin? Is Orsur a boy Kandra?
I don't know.
We've always just thought of him as male, but like I said, it's just because he assumes male forms all the time. So who really knows? I guess the flip side is, does it really matter?
Right. Vin seems to be saying that a girl Kandra would have an opinion on this dress. I mean, come on. If you're gonna, even if you're a boy Kandra, if you're gonna pretend to be a woman, you got to have some fashion sense, Orsur. So
does that imply female Kandra are picky about the bodies they choose? It's like, no, I'm not gonna wear that body. It has a big ass.
No,
Orsur is trying to, have as little known about him as well. So, or as well. So it's, why would they chime in when they're not really needed to? Like So right. I don't know that Vin's reasoning is correct. I can just tell, that's not really a good way to figure it out. But I think Jack's right. It doesn't matter. Not really.
No. Except for us talking about Orsur, it's like we need some pronouns. But other than that, it's just whatever you want. You do you, bone-eating blob.
The book keeps referring to him as a him, so I guess like out of habit we'll probably just keep doing the same. But ultimately, like, really doesn't matter much.
Yeah, no, I agree. Because if he ate a girl, then they'd probably refer to him as a girl. So whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys are saying it doesn't matter, but I mean, he's a living being.
entitled to be whatever they would like to be.
I was just kidding. I don't really care.
he might be a boy wolfhound at this point, so I think he described the wolfhound as a male, so
that's a good point. Like if he takes over a dog, like has the dog been neutered?
Interesting.
Or like would that be something they ignore when they're building the muscles and the body around? This is not a road we need to go down.
Okay, so moving away from dog genitals,
There's a line.
Yeah, so Orser thinks that he's going on this trip, and she's like, it wouldn't really make any sense for me to bring my pet dog on this trip, so I'm gonna leave you here. And he kind of goes.
That's my prediction already shot.
That's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, so Dak, your prediction, how did that work out?
Meow.
Oh man. And she's kind of disappointed that he wasn't, more gung-ho about fighting her on going with her. Their relationship is developing in strange ways. And then we cut to Elend and Ham is trying to convince Elend to let him come along as the coachman and take his own coach. And it gets seeded in here by Dachshund that the assembly has moved up their meeting to the exact time that Elend was heading out there, coincidentally. Did you guys think of anything of this at the time?
I knew this was going to be important in some way. I was like, oh, that's not good. Like, the fact that it's arrived right now, that's going to be significant.
Yeah, I sort of thought that maybe Elend ignoring the assembly once again would kind of be something, but I didn't expect it to mean he'd be deposed.
It just reminds me of what we were talking about before, when we were talking about what was the coins, and Jamie's like, no, Brandon Sanderson doesn't just put this random stuff in there and not have it go anywhere. So it's bearing that out, I guess.
Thanks, Chekhov.
And Ham's amazed that Vin is wearing a dress. He expected her to go in trousers to meet the king of the Northern Dominance. And then they make fun of his vests. And they take a minute for Elend to compliment Vin on how gorgeous she is in the dress. And if we weren't marching off to near certain doom, I'd be tempted to command a ball held to show you off. I love her line. Near certain doom is that compelling, huh? It's very cute moments between them. They work together somehow, and it's kind of fun.
Their relationship is really sweet, as long as Zane doesn't get in there and get in Vin's head.
Guys, I came up with a great name. Since he wears vests, he can be Ham Solo.
Oh,
come on, you like it.
No, it's not that. Something. It's like the place my mind immediately went. It's like, does that make Breeze Chewy?
Han Solo isn't that philosophical. That's the word. I almost said philosophical. That's not. Anyway. But now you got me thinking, like, if you reversed it, and so all of a sudden Ham is Chewie, and it's like maybe Chewie was like spouting philosophy all this time, and we never knew it.
Yeah, if so, Han Solo is definitely not translating very well. He's like, fix it! And he's like, grrr! And, if he's talking about ancient philosophers, I don't think that was really what was needed at the time.
So Chewie yelling was just like, but what happens when we pass beyond the veil into the void beyond? And Han's just like, fucking fix it!
He's like, but to be, therefore I am. Fix it!
So we get into the carriage, and they do some going over the plan again. There's a couple sweet moments where she's like, no, you can't kiss me, I just did my makeup. And I like the part where Elend says he's not worried about his safety, and she's like, why? And he's like, because I have you. You're worth an army, Vin. And then she gets to kiss him because she's a Mistborn, and they're more graceful and careful. And they kind of hash out some of this stuff that she's been worrying about with her relationship. And Ellen's conclusion is just like, hey, Vin, whatever you want to do, you do you, because I love you, so that's all that matters. You do what you want. Very supportive.
Yeah.
Correct answer, Elend.
Like you said, good Elend chapters.
Yeah, he's making some progress in various ways here. It's a good thing. He makes an interesting point about Straff and how he works with allies. He's like, one doesn't ally with House Venture. One agrees to be dominated by House Venture. So I believe that about Straff. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You could see Sean Bean in the GIF or the meme. One does not simply ally with House Venture.
Yep.
And when they arrive in his camp, they find out that Straff has made up for his lack of military experience by getting obligators to administrate his army for him. They had to go somewhere, I guess.
Now, this was probably the most interesting part to me of this first chapter, because you gotta wonder, what is he promising them? Is he gonna try to bring back their religion? But then who's the Lord Ruler? Is he propping himself up as Lord Ruler? Like these are administrators of a religion that's now defunct. So what is his hold on them here? Is it just money? Is it power? It's just kind of a weird relationship.
Well, and when Zane was, talking about God is telling him to kill people and stuff, it's like, who's his God as well? So there's something going there. Like, is Straff building himself up to be his own God or something? Like, yeah, there's definitely something going on there with their religion.
I hadn't considered that religion aspect. I just assumed with the obligators it was a case of Straff was the closest thing to the old way that they were so used to. Like, because like Ellen said, he's the perfect nobleman. He's just ruthless and very focused on himself. He's the perfect representation of what the final empire was in the immediate vicinity. Or at least he's the closest approximation to it in the immediate vicinity. So they've teamed up with him because it's the closest way they can get back to the good old ways.
Yeah, I mean, they were like, the priests of the religion in addition to administrating the empire, but religion, we find out even among the nobility, was never like really focused on within the final empire, because the Lord Ruler was like, whatever, I'm God, worship me, don't worship me, doesn't matter to me, I'll kill you if I feel like it, and if I don't feel like it, I won't. So it's hard to say how much any of these obligators were committed to the religion as an ideal, or how many of them were just there to be part of the machine and have some power. And we haven't gotten to really talk to any of them since the Lord Ruler fell, so there's no telling if they're still working as a group, if they have some sort of motivations, or what the deal is.
I mean, there's also the Inquisitor factor to cover, because like there was always that massive rivalry, and then the night before the Lord Ruler fell, like he basically deposed the obligators and put the Inquisitors above them, which they weren't happy about. So whether or not Straff has promised that he will sort out the Inquisitors for them, or at least protect them from the Inquisitors, because I feel like no one's saying anything, but there's got to be this sort of lingering thing in the back of everyone's head, just like, what happens when the Inquisitors come back? Because there are still some of them out there.
Yes, you're right. This is something that people should be worried about. Ellen seems to think that his father's got these guys working for him because he thinks that he will be able to control them. How? Who knows? That's all the information we really get on it. And then we show up, and Straff is there to greet us. And he's like, you actually came. And Ellen's like, what, you're surprised? And he's like, I see that you're just as big an idiot as ever, boy. I could have you killed with a bare wave of my hand. Yeah, that's Straff. No respect for his son, immediately out the gate.
I was actually really surprised here when he shows up and it says like he'd always been a large man. I always pictured Straff as portly but not tall. I always imagined him as like a head shorter than Elend. For some reason. So when it said, oh, he's always been a large man with a commanding posture, I'm just like, wait, is he tall? I never pictured Straff as tall.
Now I'm trying to think. There was a Straff Venture picture from the game that I put on Instagram for 1 week, and I know he looks thin. I don't remember if he looks tall there. It's hard to say without anything to compare it to.
Yeah, I think it's like a chest up shot, so I don't know that you can really tell.
No, there's a chest up shot, but there's also like a down to the knees shot. It's hard to tell because there's nothing to compare to in the picture, but I feel like he looks kind of tallish. I don't know.
There you go.
I never really thought about it, honestly. That's an interesting point. But yeah, that's not. It says that he'd always been a large man, and I guess in my mind that was like saying he was kind of heavy, but tall makes more sense, especially since in this picture we're talking about, he's not heavy at all.
No.
So we start out with Elend trying to play very weak to his father. He's just like, hey, I've always been in your power, right, father? You could have killed me and taken my city any time. But I'd like to, introduce you to my girlfriend and talk about some stuff. And Straff immediately catches her soothing his emotions and is like, tell her to stop that. And then there's the moment where she's like, oh man, I was trying my subtlest that I could be, and he noticed me. And Ellen's like, oh, he's also a Tin Eye, so he's probably listening to us right now.
Mm-hmm.
Did you guys think that this was legitimate, like she was being honest here?
You know, for a second I did, and I was like, wait a minute, she's smarter than this. What is she really doing?
Basically my reaction.
Yeah. And honestly, even Ellen twigs to it pretty quickly, like within a page or two. He's like, oh, I see what she's doing. She's already got him underestimating her.
Very clever.
Yeah. She's very good at acting exactly like the way that makes him non-suspicious of her. And I imagine that it never really says, but I imagine that she's using her allomancy also very subtly to try to make him continue to underestimate her. And Straff has a beard now. Random. It's like, I thought beards weren't in fashion. He's like, I set the fashion now, boy.
I am the beard. Wait.
Beards are itchy. I don't know why anyone would want one. But
yeah,
they're posturing, going back and forth. And Elend, he's trying to set up their plan. He's like, we can have an alliance against Set. Because the whole idea, in case anyone's forgotten in the audience, was they want to make both armies think that they're allied with them against the other one, to play them off of each other. And Elend thinks that he's doing a really good job of it, convincing his dad, and then Straff's like, nope, that is not how we're going to play this. And while they're discussing this and the fact that while they're talking about the adium and whether or not it was found in the city, Straff has his Ska come in, who looks a lot like Vin, but is a couple years younger. He's trying to make a point. I can get one just like yours, only younger and prettier. Which
asshole.
Gross. Yeah, it's just I like it.
Also just pathetic.
It kind of is, isn't it? It's like, how petty and like stupid can you be here? And then Vin jumps in and says that they don't have the adium, and Ellen has to catch up a little bit. He's like, Vin tends to do things by instinct, and all the planning in the window will go out all the planning in the world will go out the window with Vin around. But what she did and said was usually better. It's nice that he trusts her so completely to be like, yeah, if she makes a play, we're gonna back that. And then he kicks everybody out. So Straff kicks everybody out so he can have a private talk with Elend, and that is the end of the chapter. So things do not start out well for their plan, which, as we find out later, is Straff legitimately feels like that he probably would have fallen for their plan if not for the spy letting him know ahead of time what they were planning on trying.
Yep.
Elend may never know that. He just thinks that he can't get this thing done. Let's see. The next epigraph talks about he was a force of leadership, a man that fate itself seemed to support, whatever that means. We're still in fun fact about Elendi territory. So it's been going for a while.
There's this guy I really hate. I'm going to write all these amazing things about him.
It is overwhelmingly positive about him. But he also has to excuse himself, since he's the one who proclaimed that he was, the hero or whatever. He has to be like, no, but you have to understand, there was some really good evidence. It's not my fault.
This is why I thought that. My bad.
Yeah.
And I like that the chapter starts out with Straff being like, okay, look, I'm seriously about to have you killed because you're just pissing me off now.
Funnily enough, the reaction is like, you'd execute your only son, and Straff just shrugs. It's like, Ellen thinks that means something different to what it probably actually means. Because Straff's just like, sure, only, why not?
That's an interesting point. Yep, I hadn't even thought about it like that. I was just thinking, because like in a minute here, Straff's like, the Ska were supposed to kill you and free me of you forever. So it's like, yes, he would kill you, Ellen. It doesn't matter. He's his only legitimate son that we know of, which was important under the Final Empire, maybe is not anymore. And then Straff drops the bomb that he already has a treaty with Set. Set is just interested in the adium and doesn't really care about the city, and he says that they've agreed to split the adium and the Empire, basically.
Set's really holding a grudge over his daughter.
Maybe. He's like, whatever, keep her. I don't want the city. Give me the adium. I don't know. Ellen thinks that he's bluffing. He's like, Straff doesn't make alliances with people, not people that he doesn't have under his thumb. Like, we established that earlier. You don't get to ally with House Venture. You get to be dominated by House Venture. So, Ellen even says, you think I would believe that? And Straff's like, whatever. I don't care if you believe it or not. And Elend brings up the Koloss again, and Straff's like, oh, right, the Koloss. I can't even pretend to have an alliance with them. That's not how that works. Although he probably could, honestly. Jastes might make an alliance with him if... It's hard. I don't know if anyone else actually knows who's in charge of this Koloss army, because most people probably are not going to head in there like Saze did and meet the leader.
And it's like, good luck trying to plant a spy in that, because it's like, well, there are only 20 humans in this camp, and we know them all. Who's this guy? Kill him.
Yep. That's about right. Just somebody shows up like, hey, can I join your army? Not suspicious at all. I wonder if a Khandra could take over a Koloss and like eat them and impersonate them.
Ooh.
That would be a good spy, maybe. Well, in that one army, it might be a good spy. There's dead Koloss laying around all the time, so...
Just to hear the conversation. It's like, why'd you kill that Koloss? I hated him. And then he comes back. It's like, do you still hate me? Kinda. Now I'm just confused.
But, let's see. Straff says that you don't understand. I want this city. He thinks... If I'd stayed in Luthadel, I would have been the one on the throne instead of you. I can't imagine why. I guess a weak venture was still better than the other alternatives. Yeah, you're not fully yourself at all, dude.
Mm.
And just everything that his dad says reminds him of how much he hates his dad and like the nobility of the old empire. Straff finally says, you've impressed me, boy. Wearing proper clothing, getting yourself a Mistborn mistress, maintaining the control of the city. I'm going to let you live. But he's still like, what you're going to do is hand over the city to me, and that's the only deal that you will get. And when Elend kind of keeps pushing the negotiation, Straff's finally like, I said this was not a negotiation. You don't get to make demands, so on and so forth. And he's like, in the end, he's like, fine, I'm just going to kill you.
You're making this difficult.
I'm bored now. You die. And that is, oh, hold on. I'm sorry. Not quite there. He calls in the guards to kill Elend. And Elend's like, you were never going to let me live anyway. And Straff confirms that, like, yeah, you were dead the moment I decided to march here. Idiot boy. I do thank you for bringing me that girl, though. I'll take her tonight. We'll see. And then Elend, I like, it's a desperate situation. And there's like all these explanations for why Elend just busts out laughing. But most of all, it's the idea of Straff trying to force himself on Vin. He's like, you have no idea how stupid you sound.
Good luck with that, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, why don't you go ahead and try to force yourself upon the most powerful person I've ever met in my life. I'm sure that'll go really well for you.
And that is how somewhere at the conventicle of Saran they look up and all of a sudden like Straff Venture's body just flies out of the sky and lands on it.
That sounds about right.
Just punch him across the country.
And Elend just goes off on his dad. You're a pig, a sick, disgusting man who thought you were a brilliant leader but was barely competent. Only the Lord Ruler's death saved you from destroying our house. And, I mean, he just continues. He's like, I may have been a bad king, but you'd be a terrible one. And on and on. And he finally ends on an idea where he's like, hey, if you kill me, you're going to die too. And that's where we get the Vin is listening outside scene, and Zane is showing up. And they listen from the outside as Elend's like, you thought I was here to negotiate. No, I'm here to get close to you so that we can kill you if we feel like it. And Elend, he breaks it down for him where he's like, look, you were suspicious of her, and then she confirmed those suspicions, and then you ignored her. Like, would a rational person just dismiss a Mistborn, no matter how small or quiet? In fact, you'd think that the small, quiet ones would be the assassins you'd most want to pay attention to. And she starts using her powers out there to stoke certain emotions as Elend commands them: fear, passion, calmness. And then she does the severe thing where she burns Duralumin at the same time as she's soothing, so that she just like calms all of his emotions away.
So good. That was really cool.
It's an awesome moment, I feel like, where she's like, yeah, look what I can do. And Zane shows up. He's like, why can I never sneak up on you? And he plays it off as just a thing, but it's like, oh, usually it's because she has the super ability to pierce copper clouds, which you don't even imagine exists. But this time she just heard you, so. And Elend is just here like, hey, no, if you kill me, she's going to kill you, and also your generals, and your captains, and your obligators. She kills all of you. And Zane is out here like, look, see, this is exactly what I was telling you. He's using you. And Vin, why she would say something like this, given that Zane works for Straff, he's like, no, he's bluffing Zane. He'd never actually do anything like that. I'm like, Vin, what are you... Do you not remember whose side you're supposed to be on here?
I think just having trouble remembering which side Zane's supposed to be on, given everything he said.
Well, that's a fair point. I do like Zane's line about, like, oh, so it's only a small line then. Well, or a small lie then. Those are fine when one is king.
Like, shut up, Zane.
Yeah, I really just want her. This kind of entire conversation, I was like, Vin, please just put your knee into his balls.
What if the book is setting us up so that she can be with Zane and he's the good guy?
I find that answer vague and unconvincing.
Yeah. He's obviously not a good guy, so I don't really know what you're saying there.
Just because he's crazy. I mean, come on. He loves you, or he loves having you. And he goes through the whole thing like, he can't understand you. He can't know about the things that we Mistborn know and love. Has he ever even seen those? And he's talking about the stars that normal people can never see because you can't see through the mists.
And then, that song just kicks in. No one knows what it's like.
But then their conversation ends with her seeing the scars on his arms, which we know are because he likes to sit around and cut himself. But she's like, you were in the pits of Hatson, like Kelsier.
Yeah, so now she's building this picture of him in her head that is not right. That's not good. He's just let her believe it.
Well, yeah. She's associating him with Kelsier now. That's probably half of his goal this whole time. Like, And then we cut back to Straff, and he's like, just go. Get out of here. And that's where we get the Straff point of view that you were talking about, which is a great POV here. Yeah.
It's just like this part of the book is just, it made me think of Leonardo. He's just like, well played, clerks.
Well played, Vin.
Is this some sort of gay thing?
No.
Are you sure? Yes.
I vow that my revenge won't be swift or entertaining. Good times. Man, that show was so good. 6 episodes. Okay, sorry. Back to the thing. Straff is finally realizing that maybe he shouldn't have been underestimating this girl the whole time, because even before he met her, we know that he was like, oh, she can't possibly be, these rumors can't be true. And Zane shows up and is like, you look like you've seen a ghost, father. Your own, perhaps? He's such an asshole. Not as much as Straff.
So that is not a good line. Your own, perhaps? Oh my god.
And then Straff's like, there was someone else out there, right? Like a couple more Mistborn helping her. Yeah, because some more Mistborn just snuck into your camp without you noticing. That makes you feel better, right?
Absolutely.
And Zane's like, nope, she is actually that strong. And so Straff's like, okay, that's it. Change of plan. You have to kill her now. And he's like, we can do it now. They don't have the adium. And Zane's like, wait a second, did you believe that? And Straff's like, I was so thoroughly manipulated, I probably cannot trust anything they said. Still want her dead, though.
I feel like if you took a drink every time in these chapters it says Straff paused, you'd be pretty drunk by the end of these chapters.
There is a fun... Oh, poor Straff. Straff is just... this is very new territory for him. There is
Not
a fun...
poor Straff. No way.
I was wondering if there's going to be a reaction.
What are you talking
to
about?
Yeah.
Straff's the worst.
Straff is so the worst. Oh my gosh. Okay, sorry. I was going to read something from the annotations here.
Does it contain the words poor Straff?
No.
Good.
Oh, I actually meant to read this earlier. There's one note about how maybe going into Straff's camp is not as crazy as you might think. First off, a Mistborn could probably go into the camp on her own if she wanted to, at pretty much any time. If Vin wanted to attack Straff's tent, she didn't need to wait until Elend had an invitation. Because, secondly, there's a feel in this world about using Mistborn. It's kind of like the modern idea of mutually assured destruction. If both parties have Mistborn and one attacks, there will be retribution. So people tend to hold Mistborn back, using them mainly in emergencies, lest they unleash something dangerous in return. So that's
fair.
Yeah. But what I wanted,
especially since like they know Straff has his own Mistborn, so that's like they know it can be unleashed against them. So it's not just he might have one. It's like no, we definitely know he does.
We know that now. Yeah. Ever since Zane decided to introduce himself as Messenger Boy.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So he says, I like that this book is again about the Adium. I hope people don't get tired of hearing about it. It's a theme for the series, and at the core, both of the first two books are started by a conflict over the Adium. In book 1, the Adium is what Kelsier intends to steal. In book 2, the Adium is the reason the warlords come to conquer the city. It's fun that something that has yet to make an appearance, if indeed it's even real, has sparked the conflicts in 2 separate novels.
Did you say if it's even real?
That's what he says in here, yeah.
I mean, the Adium supply, like, never there to begin with? Were they lying about it?
Well, he made me more like, I mean, we know that Adium was coming into the city. Venture knows that from, like, he was mining it, right? So
yeah,
it may be more of a case of, maybe Lord Ruler spent or did something with all that Adium so that there's no longer the giant cache that everyone thinks there is that possibility of if it's even there. There's no way for us to know about that at this point. Everyone is just assuming that there is a giant pile of Adium somewhere and we just haven't found it yet.
Okay.
Straff would know, though.
You would think, right? Because he was in charge of delivering it, so...
What a great reason for war. Imagine if you knew there was no Adium, and you're like, yep, we're going to go steal the Adium back, knowing full well there's nothing there. That doesn't surprise me of Straff if he was to do something like that.
Well, yeah, I mean, when he first showed up, you guys were still like, hey, maybe he does secretly have it, and this is just like a boondoggle where he's like, oh, yeah, I'm here to get some Adium. But
the little hamster in my head is running very fast on his wheel.
Ooh. But it does specifically mention in this chapter that the information provided by Zane's Condra spy had been accurate. Elend did try to make an alliance, and the frightening thing about it was that Straff might have gone along with it if the spy had not sent warning. So there's a Condra, at least close enough to the center of the group that they knew about the plan to try to make an alliance with Straff.
Yep.
I'm hanging my hat on that Orser flag or whatever. I don't know.
It's a flag now. But we find out that the last thing Elend said, which we missed because Vin was in the middle of a conversation with Zane, was like, if you send your armies against my city, father, you are going to die. You can try and hide. You can even conquer my city, but she will find you and she will kill you. So your option here is you can wait and I will contact you when my armies are prepared. So they came in with a plan to act weak. And in the end, he really strong-armed Straff, like hard.
Probably just a personal satisfaction. It's like, I came here to act weak, but I've been doing that all my life. You know what? I'm just going to fucking twist this knife as hard as I can. There's some catharsis in there from a childhood of shitness.
Oh, I bet there is, yeah. And Straff is tempted to just attack anyway, because he's like, I know if I do this thing like Elend wants, as soon as he uses me to help beat Set, then I will be instantly betrayed. But he decides that he cannot attack Luthadel while the girl is alive. She's too strong, and he does not want to risk his personal death, even if it means conquering the city. So he's like, no, you have to kill her first, Zane. We can't do anything until then. And Zane's like, I don't know. She's pretty tough. I might need some help. A strike team of allomancers that can't be traced. Which is when we find out that the reason Straff has dozens and dozens of mistresses is because he wanted some children who were allomancers. He's only got one Mistborn, which, hey, there's an important fact that we hadn't known before, but he tells us. Only one Mistborn, but lots of misting children.
He's got a dirty dozen of his own kids.
Mm-hmm. That is kind of exactly it. Now that you say that, I hadn't thought about it like that.
Yeah. It's like he's also strike force thing.
Yeah, and he's also like, I mean, just so you know, they may not all survive. He's like, do what you have to do. He's like, I don't care how many of my kids die. I want that city.
Yep. Well, what he really wants is he's like, nobody should have that much power over me, especially not Elend. So it's not even about the city anymore. It's about, like, he cannot let somebody have that sort of, he's not used to being the submissive in the relationship. But then, of course,
I got slapped around by my kid. I'm going to make my other kid slap him around.
Slap his girlfriend around, I guess, is the plan. Which, you know what, that sounds horrible, but knowing Vin...
It's really a means to an end.
Well,
it's less that he wants to kill Vin personally. It's because he sees her as a weapon that his son is wielding against him. She doesn't care about her as a person.
That's a really good point. Yeah, even knowing how strong she is, it's all about Elend, and can't let Elend have power over me. Yeah, it's a misogynistic view where he's like, Elend is the enemy. The girl is just a tool of his because she's a girl.
It could be a misogyny thing. It also could be she's a scar. Who gives a shit?
Also true.
So it might be racism.
Or both.
Or both.
Why not?
It could be
Yeah,
both.
Scar and female.
Oh, and then his point of view ends on the really gross turn where he's like, I'm going to send for that girl again. She looks enough like Ellen's girl that it'll do me good to remind myself who's really in control. Which, ew.
Yeah, it's just like you've gone from just like an awful person to now just an outright disgusting person.
Yup. And then Ellen and Vin have kind of an awkward ride back where she's thinking about what Zane said a little too much, I think. And he's excited that they were able to protect the city, and he sees how she's reacting and thinks, oh, she saw a better plan and is disappointed in me for not like seeing the best way. But I do like how he explains it to everyone else, where he says, we overlooked one of our greatest resources, everyone. We have a weapon that like nothing that they can match, which is true. Not the nicest way to put it necessarily, but
it's just leaning into what Zane was saying. It's like he sees you as a tool.
Yeah.
It's like just really hammering that home.
And Breeze is like, so wait a second. You went into the camp of the strongest king in the Final Empire and you threatened him? And when Ellen says yes, he's like, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
This is such a Kelsier plan that it's great. And meanwhile, Spook's like, well, I guess we don't need a new king. I was kind of looking forward to taking the job. Which you then immediately find out is foreshadowing.
Yeah.
And Doxson shows up with a letter from the assembly. And Ellen's like, what's it about? And he's like, I don't know, but I've heard rumors. And the assembly letter says they have decided to invoke the charter's no confidence clause. We appreciate your efforts on behalf of the city, but the current situation calls for a different kind of leadership than your majesty can provide. Elend has been deposed. And that is the end of that chapter. So yeah, not what you guys were expecting from the end of part 2, based on what we were saying earlier.
Yes, definitely not the way I expected it to go.
No.
And the way he says it here in the part 2 wrap-up annotation is that the first section of the book was intended to reestablish the setting and the characters. Part 2 introduced us to the plot. Now we'll get into the thick of things with 3 different rulers vying for control of Luthadel. And they hope the hidden adium supply it represents. So, although I don't know, I don't know if that's exactly right, because I feel like Elend and Vin have given up on thinking the adium might still be in the city, because they feel like they've searched everywhere. But maybe it is in the city. Anyway, the beginning of part 3 is still kind of a Lendy fun fact. He's like, he left ruin in his wake. He created kingdoms and then destroyed them as he made the world anew. Very dramatic now.
Genghis Khan?
Yeah, you're not far off, it seems like.
Yeah.
And we start out with Tindwyl just like berating Elend. Like, wait. So you wrote a law that lets them get rid of their king if they feel like it. And she asked the same question like 2 or 3 different ways. Like, no, but you wrote a law that says you could be deposed. Is that what you're saying here? Because that's stupid. Which, on one level, okay, yeah. But Elend has pretty good reasons. He wants to start a government whose monarchs would be responsible to their subject. And when he says that, Vin's like, man, sometimes it's like he talks like those books that he reads, not like a normal person. Tindwyl tells him that it was sheer idiocy. A king does not subject himself to the whims of another ruling body. And they probably would have kept arguing about it if Doxson didn't jump in and be like, hey, guys, look, talking about the prudence of decisions already passed has little relevance.
It's just like, all right, you've been asking this question for about 30 minutes now. Can we please move on?
Yes, he was stupid. What else is new? Can we be productive, please? And I like Breeze's take on it is like, the people just overthrew a government last year. This is a bad habit to be getting into, I should think. And the crew is like, no. We need to take over. You're still king. And Clubs is like, and I'm still in charge of the armies, so we say you're king no matter what. And Tindwyl's like, yes, martial law. Round up the assembly members who don't agree with you. And Elend is like, no. We're not going to do that. Which I don't know if any of y'all expected him to do differently when they start on this speech about, hey, yeah, let's take over the city and force them to accept you as king. But Elend is not going to go for that.
I knew he would be opposed to the idea, but the fact that he stuck to his guns and shut them down was like, all right, didn't see that coming, but I'm glad to see it.
Yeah, he even shuts down Tindwyl. She's like, don't be a fool. And he's like, Tindwyl, respond to my ideas as you wish, but do not call me a fool again. I will not be belittled because I express my opinion. And Vin's just sitting in the corner like, ha ha, you trained him and now you have
roasted.
to deal with it. And so he's like, I know the law, I wrote it, so we're going to try to get the throne back, but the right way. Well, and she makes a point that people react irrationally during times of like chaos and stuff. So there's a reason why you need a strong leader who can't just be overthrown on a whim. But you can't account for everything when you're creating your new kingdom.
Yeah.
But she finally says, like, okay, what if you can't get your throne back through lawful means? And he says, well, then I accept that and do my best to help the kingdom anyway. And that just makes Vin like, you know what? This just shows me why I love him some more. He's so sincere and he's so determined to actually help people. Even looking at Kelsier was arrogant even as a martyr, which is very true.
Oh, yeah.
And we get the moment where she's like, for the first time, completely and honestly, she decided that Elend was a far better king than Kelsier would ever have been. Which is also true. Kelsier was so selfish.
Oh, Kelsier would have been a shit king. He loved just like going off and doing his own thing. He never would have sat still for council meetings or like planning stuff like that. It was all like even like the planning meetings for a heist were all about the thrill of it rather than what was. He believed in doing the right thing, but it was on his terms, and he would never accede to anyone else's terms on how to do it. So he wouldn't have been a good ruler.
Yeah, he would have gotten bored and like wandered off a month in.
Yep.
And then there's the cute moment where Orsur's like, mistress, this is weird. And she realizes that she started like scratching his ears.
That was funny.
I love their relationship developing here. And Orsur starts making jokes because Ham and Breeze are being distracting. And he's like, hey, I could eat one of them.
I just love the, man, these meetings would be so much better if those two just didn't show up.
Yeah, he's like, it seems like the meetings would be more productive if someone forgot to invite them.
and yeah, he's like, when she figures out it's a joke, he's like, I'm sorry, our comedy's pretty grim.
Conjuring humor.
Yeah, I imagine like a blob on stage, be like, hey, good evening, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, so glad that you're all here. Hey, the other day I ate a rat, and oh boy, my guts are bubbling still. I can still feel it rattling around in there, and let me tell you, I had to eat a rabbit just to get it over with. You know what I'm saying? But and you know, it's just really terrible comedy.
I imagine their comedy is very anti-humans. It's like, you know, the best thing about humans, how they taste.
Yeah, ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba. Am I right? My favorite is when we come across a freshly dead corpse. Oh, it's great. Did you hear about the farm boy? Yeah, he fell off the roof. His dad made him go up there, and now and we ate him. Oh boy, he was delicious. Oh, I've been wearing his face every other night. It's the best.
Just imagine the Jerry Seinfeld thing. It's like, instead of airline food, it's like, and what's the deal with terrorisman flesh? I mean, come on.
Come on. Oh yeah, and you know, all these they have they fight over each other, you know, Ska or nobleman, Ska or noble. Let me tell you something, they all taste the same.
What's the deal with all these bones? Why do humans need so many?
Yeah, they're all equally edible, you know what I mean?
I feel like if you went on a slightly darker road for Futurama, this could be Zoidberg's stand-up act.
Yep.
Especially the why do the humans need so many bones thing.
Yeah. That's very Zoidberg.
I always forget about the bones. I mean, you know, I the best part of it was I was wearing their father's skin, and I went into the room, and then I ate all of them. They had no idea.
It was like a buffet.
It was like an all-you-could-slay buffet. I mean, they had no idea.
Contra can't kill humans. It's in the contract.
Yeah, I know. That's why I had my my human with me. You know, the one that just runs around with me and kills people for me because he's insane. His name is Zane. He's a weird guy. but
Sometimes I whisper in his ear. He doesn't think it's me.
Yeah. he thinks I'm God, if you could believe it. It's great. I mean, I don't have to do anything. I just tell him to do stuff, and he does it. I'm like, kill that guy. And he's like, why? And I'm like, I don't know, just do it. And he does it. And then I eat the guy, and it tastes delicious.
Who's that guy? Oh, that's the human. What's he do? Oh, normal human stuff.
Yeah.
He learns, he laughs,
He loves.
But I do like that Vin just immediately joins in on the joke. She's like, "Oh, they probably wouldn't taste good anyway. Ham's stringy, and you don't want to know what kind of stuff Bree spends his time eating." And Orser's like, "Well, one is named Ham after all, and the other one seems fond of marinating himself as Breeze is holding his cup of wine." So,
good old Ham Solo
like,
and
Orser,
Whiny
you were jumping
McWinderson.
up the ranks towards favorite character.
Orsor, the dog is the best character as usual.
Yep. Play Final Fantasy VII. Red 13's one of the best characters.
No.
No, actually, he's not. Sorry, Red 13.
But yeah, I just like how quickly Vin just jumps into Condra humor. She's like, "Oh, I can get on board with this."
Oh, since we're on the topic of Orser as well, I've only just figured out like the first part of his name is actually a metal pun for ore.
Oh, it is. I don't think I ever thought of that.
That was one of those lying awake, and I just gone, wait a minute.
See, now you got me thinking, like, are all Condra like that? But the one other one we know is Tensoon, and that's not really a metal pun.
No,
Yeah, because it's not 10, it's 10, right?
It is 10, yeah.
Oh, missed opportunity, Sanderson.
But Tindwill's name begins with Tin also. I feel like that would get weird.
Yeah, but it's not like the D is capitalized afterwards, so like very obviously this is the word.
Yeah, it's a fair point.
Or maybe it was just 3 letters that went together, Dak.
Is there anything in the annotations about how Candras are named?
Nope.
Maybe it's not a metal pun at all.
It is. It was now.
Oh, come on, Jamie. Don't shit on it. Come on.
But I do like that Tyndall points out, she's like, well, wait a second. Is this really the time to get into a protracted legal battle when you have like 3 armies wanting to take over your city? And Elend immediately retorts with, do you really think that it's a coincidence that I get deposed now when there's 3 armies wanting to take my city?
He's like, this is exactly the time.
So if one of the enemy is behind this, who do we think that it would be?
This seems like a set play, and I think they kind of lead us that way in the book when Elend's like thinking it through. I feel like he has more to lose from not having access to canals and things like that, and I feel like it would probably have been easier for him as an unknown to get a spy into the assembly, or a sympathizer into the assembly. So I feel like that this is like Set's play, because Straff's play is power, right? He's kind of showed his hand at this point to us, at least for the most part. But subterfuge is obviously not the Koloss guy's way either. He's got all these Koloss he's just going to try to take the city with. So I feel like this is probably a Set play.
Yeah, Chastity's didn't seem real bright the last time we saw him, so Breeze does say that it sounds like something Set would do.
You just give me a mental image of Jasty's trying to put a Koloss on the throne to answer through him. It's like, introducing our new king, Blueskin.
He's like, my name's Jeff, you racist.
And Jeff is like, I don't
Jeff
like
the
this guy who
Koloss.
put me on the throne. Kill him. And it's like, that's how we do in our culture.
Yeah. Oh, gosh. Well, and Elend is like, my father seemed hesitant to side with me tonight. You know, if he had already had something in the works, then maybe that's why. But we don't really know. Although we saw into Straff's head and know that the reason he was hesitant was because of his spy and what he told him. But that doesn't mean he doesn't have something else in the works.
Well, it's like the spy could be the one who's precipitating all this. Like, they could be, like, it's someone in Elend's inner circle. If, like, that person is meeting with, like, other members of the assembly and sort of nudging them towards turning against him, like, this, like, the spy could be the person behind the deposing to begin with.
That's really
Yeah, I don't know about that, because he specifically mentions in this portion, like, Straff mentions that it's a Condra spy, and we know that the Condra spy is the one who told him that Elend is trying to play him. So the assembly members don't know that. Nobody in the assembly knows that. So I don't feel like that could be possible.
Well, but it could be just a separate play from Dockson's the one who came back with the letter from the assembly, right? If Dockson was secretly, like Dax says, meeting with assembly members and being like, this Elend guy is not a good king, but you, random assembly member, maybe you would be a great king. I'd love to work with you. And I'm friends with the guy who's in charge of the army, so if I am on your side, then...
Plus, we all know Dockson doesn't exactly like Elend anyway, so if he's meeting with other assembly members and talking about misgivings about Elend, they wouldn't see it as out of character.
I don't know. That's a real deep dive into like Dockson being a bad man.
Or a bad bone-eating blob.
Sure. I'm sticking with who I think the bone-eating blob is, but
And they're like, hey, why isn't Say's
Are we trying to make a bad to the bone joke?
Bad to the bone-eating blob.
Bad to the blob.
Nice.
Bad.
No. Spook couldn't get Says to get up to come to the meeting, and Tindwell's like, oh no, he's recovering. It's a keeper thing. And Ham's just like, oh, so he needs to refill Metal Mind, huh? And she's just like, he told you about that, huh? I see.
Giving away secrets.
And she's like, traveling keepers, such as Says, do not take sides in political matters. And Breeze is like, oh, political stuff like overthrowing the Final Empire? That sort of thing?
Man, they are really throwing it in her face. You know what?
She deserves
They don't even
Feels
know
good.
that how much that pisses her off.
No, they
Yeah,
don't.
exactly. She's like, traveling keepers, such as Says, as if he's lower class than she is. Come on, lady.
She's
But then-
just like, we're secret keepers, not secret tellers.
But they are tellers. That's what they're doing now. They're supposed to be telling people stuff. But she comes back and she says, you should not encourage him to break his vows. If you were his friends, you would see that to be true, I think.
We also don't know what his vows are, but
Right?
whatever.
Yeah, no one has told them what his vows are, so that doesn't really...
Yeah.
Come on, Tindwell.
But then Breeze just goes in for the kill. So I think you're just embarrassed that he disobeyed you all and freed your people in the process. And she's like, I want to fucking kill you.
She completely ignores that because he's right, probably. And she's just like, yeah, just push on my emotions all you want. You will not have success. And then he's grumpy about that. Damn Terrace.
Cheers.
And then it jumps to Elend, however, wasn't paying attention to the argument. He already had 4 books open on the table and was flipping through them.
Yeah,
And-
gotta do what you gotta do.
She's like, see, that's the guy. I love that guy. He's still in there somewhere.
Yo, I just remember the days when he was courting me by reading books.
And she and Orstor leave. And we cut to Elend a little bit later. And Tindwell comes up to ask him, well, first she apologizes for treating him disrespectfully. And she says, I have a habit of treating people like children. It's not something I should be proud of, I think. And they have a little talk about, how did this happen? And don't you have friends on the assembly? You're the one who gave them their power. Shouldn't they be supporting you? And honestly, I'm not sure that he does have any friends on the assembly that we've seen. But
Yeah, maybe not specifically that we've seen, but I feel like there are some people that leaned more towards him on the assembly. It's just it's almost like a lobbyist thing, right? They've all got their own agenda that they want to get taken care of. So they're always going to be shouting about their own needs ahead of what maybe Elend is looking at a bigger picture.
it's a fair point.
Yeah.
And Tindwell brings up, it's like, hey, Vin says the meeting with your father went well. And Elend goes into this, like, I don't know, like, yeah, that was fine, but I think I offended Vin. She was in a weird mood. And they have kind of a talk where she comes out with the stuff that Vin told her. She's like, she doesn't want to marry you because she doesn't think she's worthy of you. And he's like, she's worth like 10 of me. She's a Mistborn. And Tindwell's like, you understand very little about women, especially young women. Their competence has surprisingly small amount to do with how they feel about themselves. That's probably not just a woman thing, but whatever.
Yeah, I think that's a humanity thing, but maybe it's especially strong in, a teenager, which technically Vin still is. So maybe it's, and plus, like we've talked about, and like they say in the book, she had a very hard, confusing, and not great upbringing. So.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he says, how sure are you about this? And she's like, I've raised a number of daughters. I understand the things of which I speak. He's like, wait, you have children? And she says, of course. And he's like, well, he thinks to himself, like, I thought they were all eunuchs like Sazed, but I guess that can't be true for a woman. But it does strike him as a little strange. She's like, the Lord Ruler had these breeding programs. You'd think that they would have had something to... But she says, hey, look, your relationship with Vin is going to be difficult. She has certain issues that will provide more problems than a more conventional woman. And he's like, I don't want a conventional woman. I love Vin. And she's like, well, you can't let your relationship with her distract you. And he's like, what are you talking about distracted? She says, well, I asked you about your success with Lord Venture, and you instead want to talk about how Vin felt during the ride home. Which, yeah, okay. That's a good point.
Yeah, guy's young and in love, man.
And he says, I've studied too many hypothetical dilemmas to be caught in that sort of trap. And she's like, I already see a dilemma, and I find it not at all hypothetical. And then she leaves.
He's like, shut your face, Grandma.
But that's the end of our chapter. So yeah, just I don't know. What do you guys think about this relationship talk that they have about him and Vin? Is he gonna go off and find himself a more conventional woman?
I don't think so.
He seems pretty firm on what he wants.
Yeah. I think Tindwyl is really just saying, like, look, I'm here to advise you on how to be the best king. You having a relationship with this woman, it's going to make it a very difficult for you to be the best king that you could be. That's her perspective on it, right? But it doesn't mean that he can't do it. It's just her perspective is, it would be easier if you didn't love this woman.
She's probably not wrong, although at the same time, Vin is kind of integral to keeping this kingdom together in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
for example.
Right. She's the most powerful Mistborn we know of right now. It's like she's kind of important.
Yeah. Okay. Any final thoughts on these chapters before we move into predicaments? Okay. Well, what do people have to predict this time? We'll let Jamie go first. I don't think Jamie's gone first in a bit.
Yeah, I don't really have a lot new predictions this time. I think I'm still, if I had to pick someone in the crew that was the Kandra spy, I really like Joe's idea of it being Osur, but I think Dockson still makes sense, especially now with the letter. Like he's that sort of conduit between the assembly and our crew as well. So I think him having the letter makes sense. Like he's in a position to talk to the assembly. Also, I mean, when I first read it and Elend noticed that Dockson was a little bit off as well, like he got into the same carriage, and now like we know that it was to give him the letter as well. It was weird. He's like, he doesn't even really like me that much. Like, why is he getting in the carriage? So I think, yeah, I'm still leaning towards Dockson as our spy. Yeah, I don't really have anything new on today's information. I think we've probably got more than one spy, and we would be naive to think that Set didn't have spies too. So I think that this move possibly, yeah, I don't know. I don't know whether it's come from Straff's side or Set's side, or one of them's floated the idea and they've kind of all gone with it going, yeah, this is great, we'll just, turns out the whole assembly are spies or something. I don't know. That would completely undermine the entire government. Yeah, well, you can be a spy without being a Kandra. But yeah, I think that's all I've really got this time.
All right. Well, we know Set's daughter is in the palace at the very least. So, and she was
I forgot about Powderpuff.
She was spying kind of poorly, but she was doing it.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't think she's really got interaction with the assembly either. So I don't know that she would be the Kandra, but she's definitely suspicious.
Looking sus. Okay, fair enough. Joe, what are you thinking?
Well, I think we're gonna see maybe an assassination attempt of some kind from Zane and his misting half-brother and sister crew. I am almost imagining that there's going to be some kind of turn where, they go to attack and then Zane slaughters all of them. And he's like, yep, they're gone. I did it for you, Vin. You're all I've ever wanted. You're all I've ever needed. I'm the one that you need.
I do.
Yeah.
Do it for you.
You're the one that I need. I'm the one that you loathe. You know, you can watch me corrode like a beast in repose. You know, and I think he's gonna go out there for her, man. He's gonna protect her because he's got some kind of sick problem. So we'll see.
He does have some kind of sick problem.
Yeah.
It's indisputable, more or less, at this point.
Yeah, for sure. What's going to happen with the assembly? I think Ellen's going to figure it out, you know? Maybe things are going to take a terrible turn, but hopefully he can win the assembly members back and they can oust whoever is the spy from the assembly. But we'll see.
Okay. So this army, this Dirty Dozen allomancer group is not going to work out like Straff thinks, and they're going to somehow get the throne back. Okay.
They need a name that's alliterative like that.
Straff.
The Misting Mob.
Strays.
The Misting Mob.
Ooh.
That was good.
I was thinking Straff Spawn, but
Straff Spawn's good. I also like Straff Strays.
Yeah.
Venture's voluminous. I don't know. Throw some more V words in there.
Volatile.
No, I'm gonna stick with the Misting Mob. Nice and succinct.
The secret mistings. Secret. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Fair enough.
The incestuous lot.
Oh no. There's.
Oh wow.
That took a turn.
No. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
Not
I
necessary.
forgot. You know.
That wasn't even alliterative. That was just.
Wasn't there? There was incest earlier in the book, right?
I know you're looking hard for it, but
Was there?
we had a conversation about it before where Joe was
We did.
disappointed at the lack of incest at one point.
Oh, I was joking.
Yeah. Sure. Okay.
If we learned anything from the spook stuff, it's people take your jokes very seriously.
Yeah, they do.
Oh, yeah. Let me tell you. Don't say anything about spook.
Okay, Jack.
Hold
Your turn.
Hold on. One more thing.
Okay.
I can't. I don't understand. First of all, we are joking, but it's like Spook's not that interesting. Why do so many people care that I'm mean to him? Why does it matter?
That's a good point.
Anyway, sorry, Dak. Go ahead.
That's all right. So I've got two for this week. First one is as far as the spy goes. So I think it is possible that it could be Doxson, given stuff we've already talked about, like in this episode. But I actually don't think it is him. I think I know who it actually is. It could be wrong, but I think it's Captain Damu. Because
Captain Damu.
He's always hanging around the background. He shows up to a lot of these meetings and just stands there. So he knows information that the inner circle knows, but we barely ever see anything of him. So he's constantly beneath suspicion, but he knows so much. And he was the maids found the extra body that the other Kandra left behind. He could have left that out because he knew they would have to report to him, and then he'd report it up the chain. So it's like that thing we were talking about when they found the bones. You look at the person who found the body as the person who possibly left it there, because then that lowers the suspicion of them. I think Damu could be playing that game as well. So he always seems to be present. He was in this meeting, in the room in this last chapter where they were talking about Elend being deposed, and he didn't say anything, but he was there. He heard everything. He knows everything. So he knows everything the inner circle's doing, and he could easily report that back. So I think that's him. I don't hear gasping.
No, I was just looking, but yeah, you're right that Damu is kind of always around.
He does hang about.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, if Ham's not around, Damu as the guardsman is for Elend, and even when Ham is around, Damu's still there. So yeah, that's my prediction for the spy. The other prediction is actually one that I came up with while we were recording, specifically after you mentioned that annotation where he talks about if the Adium was real. And now all of a sudden I think the Lord Ruler's plan all along has just been opened up to me. The Adium's not there. No one can find it because he was using it to hold off whatever doom it was that he was telling them about as he lay dying. He used the Adium to ward him off. And I thought, okay, how's he doing that? What else do we know about the Adium that other people use is that's how they pay off Kandras. Who are adult mist creatures, and we know that Mistborns only really came about after the Ascension, and he granted the powers So people who are using Atium came about when the mists first came into being. So the mist is a result of, I'm just jumping all over the place here, but like the mists are, the remnants of whatever the Lord Rule's holding off. Now that he's gone, they're coming back in force and starting to kill people. And we know that because the Kandra use Atium for whatever reason, maybe the mists also have Atium to like forestall them or something. It's like, but yeah, burning the Atium, the Lord Rules used it all up trying to keep the mist at bay. And so that's why there's no reserve left. It's because it's already been used. And maybe the Inquisitors have taken it to try and carry on that legacy. They're trying to keep the mists at bay with the Atium. So maybe they've got it. Ooh. If there's any left at all, if it hasn't already been used. So jumped all over a bit there, but I think everyone can get the gist of what I'm talking about.
So Kelsier destroying the Pits of Hathsin may have been very bad in the long term, is what you're saying.
He may have doomed the world.
Yeah, Kelsier does stuff like that, though.
Yeah, that's just like that guy.
Yep.
Kelsier.
Short-sighted bastard.
That is a deep one. It definitely gives us an idea about what could be going on with Atium, with the Lord Ruler. It kind of rolls a bunch of stuff into one here. I like the way that you're weaving different threads together.
Just the fact that the Kandra, the mist monsters, need Atium for some purpose. We don't know what it is.
Yep.
So yeah, they've burnt all the reserve Atium. The Lord Ruler and the Inquisitors have burnt it all to hold the mist at bay. Now there's none left holding the mist at bay. So the Atium is the key to that.
I wonder how you would fix that at this point.
Yeah, that I don't have a prediction for. At this stage, I'm just like, well, if that's true, then they fucked.
Yeah, we're screwed then. Too bad. Bye, world.
Game over, man. Game over.
Yep. Okay. I like that. I especially like that ending. That it's just like, you know what? When you take that to the logical conclusion, yep, we're all screwed. Oh, well. That's the best kind of prediction. The one where you're like, oh, that's even worse than I thought when I was thinking it up.
Yeah.
Yep.
Ah, Dak, why are you depressing me, man?
Okay, so this week we have one email.
On my business card, Dak, moment ruiner.
I just read the story on your Facebook about how you cut the keys for the magician, and
yeah,
it's really a letdown when you get to the end. As much like it was clearly a letdown for you when you're like, I have no idea what he was using it for. But then when the reader gets to the end of the story, you're like, damn it, now I'll never know what this magician was doing.
It's
a thing.
I wrote that story in such a way it's just like everyone must feel the same just fury that I felt when I realized that. For the listeners at home, long story short, I had to cut a couple of keys for a magician a few years ago. Like he said, he didn't care how they were cut, just so they looked like genuine keys. One of them had to have a notch in like the keyhole at the top of the key, a tiny little notch. And he didn't, and I was like, okay, sure, why not? He was willing to pay, so I did all this. And it wasn't until after he walked out I forgot to ask him what the trick was.
He probably wouldn't have told you anyway.
No, but I'll never know that.
Yeah,
it's true. Maybe he's a listener. He'll write in.
Yeah, write in, Mr. Magician Guy. Tell us about your trick.
If you were that magician, please tell us the answer.
If you were that Irish guy that Dak tried to trick one time in a store.
Oh my God.
Tell us what you thought.
Please, sir, we need you.
Okay, so we have
figures from my past.
Over the last 2 weeks since we recorded, we received one email. So this won't take long to get through. And it is from Eli, who actually, if I'm looking at this,
did he invent the cotton gin?
Did not invent the cotton gin. I knew that's where that was going. All right. Based on the email address that Eli has sent from, it may also be somebody who has commented and has a cool Twitter account, or not Twitter, I'm sorry, Instagram account, but about the Cosmere. But anyway, sorry, that's off track. Eli says, first off, really love the podcast, so thank you for doing it. And you invited us to share our thoughts on when to read Secret History, and I have an entire essay, so here we go. And I'm not going to read that whole thing because there's lots of spoilers for other stuff in here. But Eli says he firmly believes that the correct time to read Secret History is after Bands of Mourning. Sanderson himself has recommended it be read this way. So on and so forth. Which, yes, you have some very compelling arguments here. I was aware of these things already, but laying them all out, I see your point here, Eli, and I will take that into consideration when we get that far. We're getting a lot of
You're full of crap,
opinions,
Eli.
And I knew from the beginning that Secret History was going to be contentious either way with the audience. No matter how we read it, we're going to have some people like, no, that was the wrong way to do it, and some people like, yeah. So I like that it's gotten such a response from the audience that we've gotten a bunch of emails about recommendations of which way we should do it.
But also, like, there's so much debate about this story we haven't read yet. So now I'm just like, this story is going to be a real game changer given how passionate everyone is about it.
Apparently.
It does seem like that, huh? That's what we're going to do, right? When we get to the end of these 3 books, it's like, so whether or not we read Secret History next, what do you think is going to happen? That'll be the prediction, and no one will have any ideas.
Oh,
yeah, exactly.
No.
Okay, yeah, that'll be everyone's just like, I don't know. And that's the end of that predicted section.
Yeah. Well, we're ruled
ever.
over by conjure dogs. I mean, I don't know what to tell you.
So thank you, Eli. If anyone else wants to send us emails of any kind, you can send it to the Sanderlanche@gmail.com. You can find us on Twitter. A couple more people liked our tweet, our tweet since the last time I mentioned it, where I was like, yeah, we got like 2 people who like our tweets, but Alejandro and Alex have been liking, so we're getting more people on the Twitter. You can also see us on Instagram, find us on Facebook. Our last Instagram post was the first picture that I haven't taken personally, and it was the most popular by far, which probably means people don't want to see pictures that I've taken. I need to go out and find random other things to post that are way better.
No more pictures of Dimitri, I guess. That's unfortunate.
Oh, but he's such a good kitten.
Yeah, he's a good cat.
Anyway, did I say all the places? I think I said all the places. We're all over the place. You can find us. It's the Sanderlanche everywhere. There's an E at the end of the word. Just don't forget that bit. And for next week, we are reading chapters 29, 30, and 31. That is 3 chapters again. Will we get the action that everyone's been wanting? Tune in and find out.
Yeah, music by Miracle Sound.
Yes, music by Miracle. I totally cut you into the last episode saying that. It'll be super obvious to anyone listening. It's like I'm in the middle of talking about something completely unrelated, and Joe just pops in and be like, music by Miracle Sound.
Well, it is.
I don't remember every time, sadly. But that being said, now we've hit on that all-important point. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Come back next week to hear our opinions about the exciting giant fight scene that's coming up. Oh, whoops, spoiled that.
What?
Wink, wink.
Oh, no.
Nudge, nudge. Or I'm lying. It's probably I'm probably lying.
Yeah, the next 3 chapters are just going to be them in an assembly meeting.
Yep, it's just one long assembly meeting. You figured it out.
The 3 chapters.
Tune in next week when we talk about an assembly meeting and I quit the podcast.
or sitting there making jokes, and it'll be great.
Right. Who doesn't want to talk a dog?
Put forth his own campaign to be king, and everyone's like, Spook, shut up.
Spook should campaign to be king. That would be awesome.
And then,
Spook.
vote Spook.
He's got posters like in street slang or whatever.
Yeah. Wasing to the vote, everyone. Yeah, that's good. Hey, but who wouldn't want a talking dog? That's what we need to do. They need to prop up Orsur as the king.
All hail dog. All hail dog.
Yeah. They're like, that dog talks. Make him the king.
Vin and Orsur 2020. I'm making that sign to put on my yard. It's a little late for that now, but so come back next week for Orsur's campaign, where he fights Spook in a debate about who will be the new king. It's the best scene in the book.
Yeah. Orsur's running campaign is like more bones, more flesh, less bones.
More flesh, more bones, more death. Just the things that everyone wants all the time. Okay, guys. Wasing to the time of next, everyone.
And we try to keep a little beauty in the world. All that die, we'll keep it in our hands. Oh, we are the maiden voice. We'll keep it in our hands. We tell it to the page. We never let it fade.